put him in a rugby match, he'll look decidedly skinny.
It's like watching the NBA, and you think, that guy looks pretty small. Then the numbers come up. He's 200 centimetres tall and he weighs 100 kilos.
Nibali still pushing on at the moment, but really, knowing the group is coming across, he's not giving it everything. Just tempo towards the top of the climb. And recover from the initial effort of getting away and then slot into the group. Then it will be a case of fingers crossed that the peloton give us a big gap, because they've only got 50 kilometres to build it up, and that was when they were scheduled to start at the original kilometre zero. Of course, this stage delayed by some 6.5 kilometres to ensure the riders' safety. So just 43.5 kilometres left to the foot of the Soleure from the start. It's not a lot of time to build up a big buffer.
No, it's not.
But this is good news for them.
Very good news. And another bit of good news for Vincenzo Nibali is in that group that's about to come across to him, his teammate, Matej Mohoric. Mohoric will sacrifice for Vincenzo Nibali. He will drive for as long as he can.
Vincenzo Nibali on his way to getting 1 point. Any sign of Tim Wellens? Probably not. 1 point, not a big difference. Wellens certainly will want to be in the hunt when they get to the summit of the Col de Soleure.
He's flushing out the lactic acid from that initial effort to force the breakaway. Peter Sagan will hold on for second over the top of the climb. And that's worked out well for Peter Sagan to get a head start at the base of that climb before the rest of the group comes across.
You see how slowly they've ridden up that climb, and the group still hasn't got to them. They had a really big lead before they got there. They're out to 2 minutes 23 ahead of the peloton, and just now a rider from Trek Segafredo going away.
Fabio Fellini it was. This is Ladanu, followed by Marco Haller. Then it's Ilnaz Zakarin, who is a really good climber.
Quite a different level of intensity now across the top of the climb for this group. They'll pick up Sagan. Good move, but it's going to restrict the gap that this breakaway will be allowed to have. Without him there, who was the next best? 25 minutes.
Sergio Arnau at 25.24. How much would he like to have said that I've got a radio problem when he heard that come through from the team car? We need somebody to go across. Fabio, guess what? Today, it's your job to do the dishes. Go and clean up.
Sorry, can't hear you, going into a tunnel.
Exactly what it would have been thinking and wanted to do.
Now there is Verona just going through and off at the front.
What do you make of Sanchez being in this group? In the context of also having Jakob Fuglsang daring to dream about making the podium by Paris, who's back in the peloton, mind you.
A very good and very experienced domestique, super domestique up the road, who's also not without a chance of winning this stage, although I think you'd have to go in an attacking move out of this group, leaving behind the very best climbers well before we get to the top.
It's Ladanu at the back in the white, predominantly white, the blue and red colours, Group Armour FDJ. On Columbia Independence Day, slightly disappointing day for them yesterday. Dan Martin conceded a chunk of time, down to 11th overall at 4:15. But as we sit in the commentary box, Robbie is pointing vigorously at the time. The gap is back under
30 seconds. They're riding well together. This is the peloton. FDJ and Thibaut Pinot getting involved, and this is because of the presence of Guillaume Martin. No other reason at this stage, this early, to chase this break for FDJ.
Get it. They still don't need to chase it, even at that point, because Thibaut Pinot is 7th overall. He's at 3:22 behind. He's 6 minutes ahead of Guillaume Martin. But Thibaut Pinot is the last of the riders from Group Armour FDJ, sitting just in front of the road. He doesn't need to be, and he shouldn't be racing based on Guillaume Martin being in that breakaway. He needs to be racing based on the yellow jersey in this group and Geraint Thomas in this group. That's where his race should be focused.
Unless their confidence is just so enormously high for Thibaut Pinot to ride everybody out of the wheel on the slopes of the Col de Tourmalet and win the stage. I don't think that's the case this early in the race.
Well, this is William Bonnet, who is at the front, the bigger figure from the Group Armour FDJ. FDJ team. And for a guy like William Bonnet, who's a noted sprinter, well, he was a few years ago, early in his career, it'd be a horrible thought having to do all the pacemaking before you hit the big mountains. This is Zakarin from Katusha Alpecin. Now that's a team that needs a stage win.
And it's a man who has the skill set to do it, but we've seen in this tour he seems to be completely exhausted from his efforts in the Giro d'Italia, where he finished 10th overall. This is l'église de l'Assomption de Notre-Dame in Benejac.
One of the many Assumption de Notre-Dames that we'll be able to get a look at throughout today's stage. This one's just a few hundred years old.
This is the back of the peloton. Rider there, number 212 is Maxime Bouet. Here at the front, William Bonnet.
And Max Richesi then in second position. The Koenig Quickstep, the team of Julian Alaphilippe, have so much experience of riding out to the front throughout the first week. Halfway through the second, it's a new experience for them, defending the yellow jersey, the leader's jersey, any green tour, this deep into the race. Even though we're only just starting the parties in the high mountains, the Pyrenees, and then next week at the back end of the tour. The front of the peloton, Groupama FDJ chasing. In the breakaway, we just saw Matthew Ladanu working with this group. Surely, radio communication was saying, Matthew, sit on the back.
You would think so in this situation. What could be a good thing for Thibaut Pinot is that this group gets over the first big climb of the day, the Colle in front of the peloton, and Ladanu is then there to assist in any way he can. But it is a very curious tactic, and you are shaking your head vigorously.
I am. It's because I don't agree with him. I agree with you because we always get on. Well, from this group, if this group was to survive, then let's have the conversation. Who wins from that group if they were to survive to the top of the Tourmalet? And we have to pick a different rider. You go first.
Martin. Guillaume Martin. You were going to pick him, so now you're picking of someone else.
Nibali. Experience. I'll go with experience. I was
Sentimental pick.
Guillaume Martin. Yeah, I think Guillaume Martin's got better form. He's got the legs. So experience would win from that group. Vincenzo Nibali.
Fair enough.
You know what? I don't think we're going to get the answer today. Because I don't think they're going to make it.
No, I don't think they're going to either. Not with the chase going on like this behind. They had 2.5 minutes, came just under 2, and now kilometres of racing because we did have that late start. And talking of sprint trains, they've been one of the best in the first week. Got it absolutely correct once, but they've always managed to have Elia Viviani in contention for the sprint wins. But now the tactic of the team has completely turned around. Alaphilippe was sort of doing his own thing early on. He was Lulu. They didn't have to do much. Now having the yellow jersey, a lot more responsibility. And they won't be thinking about further sprints at the moment. There may be one in Nîmes in a few days, and after that, there'll be one in Paris. I think we won't have many sprinters there.
No, I don't think we will.
For the sprinters, once they get to the 50-kilometre mark, to the foot of the Soleil, it's a time trial.
And Vincenzo Nibali will like this, with Maciej Mohoric trying to set the tempo for this breakaway group in the red colours of Bahrain Merida.
Still a small gap. Still a small gap. 2:47, so it was out towards 3, and it's just shrinking again at the moment.
This is Kalmajan.
It's not going to be enough.
Kalmajan through to the front, then his teammate to come through, that's Roman Sikar. With the yellow shoes, that's Alexis Villimos. Vincenzo to work, he's not just relying on his teammate to do all the pacemaking. And for Groupama FDJ, Matthew Ladanu about to roll through to the front. Surely he's playing a slightly disruptive role, with his teammates doing all the pacemaking back in the main peloton. Does look like he's eased up ever so slightly as he rolls over the top of Vincenzo Nibali, as we see the return of Rein Taramay.
Just talking about that time gap and who's chasing behind, back to 2:46. They are now at 68.5 kilometres to go in Ferrier. No disrespect, but that is guys like Marco Haller. He's a sprinter. got himself into the group, well done. But his teammate, for example, the man on the right at the front, Zakarin, he will know with this time gap, we've got to get on with it, up the tempo.
And that's exactly why Marco Haller was in the group. So along that valley road, he could do the pacemaking. And Zakarin is riding smartly. One of the better climbers from this group. 10th this year at the Giro d'Italia. He's trying. Movistar. Good move for Movistar today as they also focus on the team's classification. Alexis Villemot's just in front of him from AG2R Le Mondial. One of the strange moves yesterday in the time trial was from Villemot's teammate Romain Bardet with the bike change at the top of the climb at the 15-kilometre mark.
I thought that was a really poor decision. Not an aero bike, and it didn't have that tipped forward aerodynamic look of a time trial bike. It looked to be more like a road bike, been set up with time trial bars on it, and then that changed to the real aerodynamic bike. But by that stage, he'd already lost a whole lot of time by the time he got to that intermediate time check. It was a bad decision. It just cost him more time.
It shows how rattled he is.
Yeah. That was grabbing at straws.
Yeah. Romain Bardet is down into 17 at 5 minutes and 46 behind. And this is a guy who 2 years ago was 3rd overall. 3 years ago, he was in 2nd place overall. He said that he's just hoping by the end of this year's Tour de form or that spirit of racing of a couple of seasons ago. As a sprinter, Robbie, what are the thoughts going through your head?
It just so happens, I was having a look on Graham this morning, Caleb Ewan's Instagram story. Fact of the day, I'll have to go harder than the person who will win the stage just to stay inside the time cut. Crying face emoji.
What are the emotions then of a retired sprinter who's won the green jerseys? He looks at those images.
All I can say, I actually sent him a little message.
Here's the French president, Emmanuel Macron, on the far side of the car. Christian Prudhomme nearest the picture. Here's the Tour director. Here's the former lead commentator for French television, covering the Tour de France for a number of years.
Christian Prudhomme, the former journalist, and now the director of the world's biggest race.
He's been in charge since 2006. I was a little worried initially with so many stages of 200 plus kilometres that could lead to some really negative racing, but it hasn't been the case at all. The only genuinely dull day was the stage that was won by Dylan Gruner on Sur-Saône, which was 230 kilometres, and there was no real wind to cause any action within the peloton, and you can't have chocolates every day. And Mohoric is doing the sacrificing for Vincenzo Nibali. Guillaume Martin, the philosopher, is at the back. Philosophy at university in Paris. Peloton's still pretty much all together. Group Armour FDJ doing a lot of the pacemaking. It's the time trial specialist now who was on the front. William Bonnet has gone from the front. It's now over to Stefan King who is setting the pace. So far things are working out well, but it's still very early in the stage, less than halfway through. Luke Rowe, the first of the riders from Ineos. The rider that just wiped his nose then, that's David Gaudu. 22-year-old Frenchman, brilliant climber. He'll be crucial to the prospects today of Thibaut Pinot. Average speed so far 42.5, but will be a lot slower than that by the end of the stage at the top of the Col de Tourmalet. The Tour finished at the top of the Col de Tourmalet for the very first time in 1974. It was Jean-Pierre Dengoyer who went out the winner of the stage on that occasion. So let's now take a look at the historic footage from 1974 and the first ever finish at the top of the Col de Tourmalet.
This is Matteo Trentin. Also feeling the effects. I wouldn't expect him to be dropped just yet from the big group, but maybe also feeling the effects of that breakaway the other day on the way to Bagnères de Bigorre.
It went super deep, but they got the result as Simon Yates won.
Roger Kluge.
166 is Roger Kluge. The upside down 13, Marcus Burkhardt.
You'll see a lot of riders here doing the maximum to try and hang on over the top of the Sulur to get a free ride down the valley. It's a bit of descending, then a plateau, then gently downhill down the valley, and then quite a bit of flat before they hit the foot of the Tourmalet. And being such a short stage, the time cut will be short as well. If you can possibly hang on, you're much better to get over the Sulur, and then you're safe. Haven't seen many of the sprinters.
Well, one of them's in the breakaway wearing the green jersey and setting the tempo at the front. Peter Sagan again. There he is, Sagan in third position. His former teammate Vincenzo Nibali now setting the pace. Since Ilnaz Zakarin got this group moving once again, they're back out to 2 in the right direction. Hoping to get to the top of this climb and collect the maximum points. 10 points on offer at the top of this climb. And it's 20 points for the top of the Colle Tourmalet. This is Roger Kluger from Soudal Lotto. Instrument of Ewan. That was into Toulouse a couple of days ago.
Little flatter section. Just saying excuse me to his German colleague, Niels Pollitt.
And at the back, Steve Cummings still in contact. This is the leading group. Zakarin with the red helmet. Now the blue colours for a start. Tim Wellens is now coming through, racing for that King of the Mountains classification. He leads ahead of his teammate Thomas de Getz. And Tim Wellens is one of the riders we caught up with before the stage started. Let's now have a listen to the man who wears the polka dots as the leader of the King of the Mountains classification, Tim Wellens. That was Marc Soler setting the tempo, and Andre Greipel is one of the first to pay the price.
So Movistar also getting interested in the chase. So it seems a lot of teams got their hearts set. Now, it can't be panic about Guillaume Martin, who's at over 9 minutes behind on GC. This is racing to try and put Julian Alaphilippe under pressure. Don't give him an easy ride over the first climb. Keep the pressure on. Make it come down to the pure climbers. They've got to get rid of him.
It's closing down really quickly, but everybody predicting the big decisions will be in the Alps. This is now Andre Amador at the front, followed by Marc Soler.
Maybe they want to test him, but Thomas has got a teammate up there setting tempo as well in Michał Kwiatkowski. And that's also very early. Here's Julian Alaphilippe in his wheel, Steven Kruiswijk. I think a lot of this is aimed at unseating Julian Alaphilippe.
Sunweb, they've been in plenty of breakaways throughout the race. They've had a few close calls, but now they're relying on the young 22-year-old German climber.
Ilnaz Zakarin, who kicked off the hostilities within this group, he upped the tempo. Vincenzo Nibali, he's the man who started the break. He was the first real attack. Vincenzo Nibali, see who's still coming across, and always willing to push the tempo is Zakarin. He looked bad in the first week of this Tour de France. Maybe he started to come through and he's found some sort of Grand Tour second wind.
This is Roman Sicker, who is fighting his way back, looking for the wheel of Luis Leon Sanchez, who is the man next in line. This is Sanchez from Astana. Total Direct Energy is about to be caught. They have Carlos Verona in that breakaway group, who hasn't been contributing. He's been sitting.
Still two riders, Geraint Thomas, Richie Port, making his way further up towards the front. It will not be a big group as they come over the top of the Sulur. There's a big split.
Yes. Berhane, the Eritrean national champion, had an opportunity yesterday to have a good...
Riders you wouldn't expect to be in contention on this stage. Simon Clark, number 93, in the pink and purple of E. Daryl Impey, Luke Durbridge, 102. Number 92, Alberto Bettiol, the winner of the Tour of Flanders.
This group just getting itself organised. This is Michael Matthews now in the red colours, that familiar figure. Colours from Deceuninck Quick Step. Next one going backwards, that's Anthony Roux, former French national champion.
Rosetto, Perez, always together.
Romain Bardet is in this group, so no, that's Michael Chirel. I thought it was Bardet for a moment, that was Michael still in there.
Also overboard, Oliveira from Movistar, Magnus Kort. Plenty of drop riders to look at with Tom.
It is Johnny Moscon, number 5 from Ineos. There he is, Roman. 2019 has been a write-off. This is a man who's finished 2nd overall in the Tour de France. 30-plus riders surrounding the yellow jersey, and Bardet is not amongst them.
I'll be surprised if Romain Bardet finishes this Tour de France. It's been a complete disaster. I don't know what the exact reason is, just lack of form. Is there an illness or injury that's been kept quiet and he's being found out? But this is not where he should be in this current sort of form.
Is that Simon Yates? It is Simon Yates, the winner of a stage in the Bagnères de Bigorre.
No, it wouldn't surprise me about Simon Yates though. He was so far back in the peloton that 80 riders have been dropped in front of him, and that is that gap, and he'll ride his way back across it.
Witkowski now being dropped for Ineos, so they're starting to be really strung out. Still 3 riders in that group from Jumbo. George Bennett, the Kiwi climber, and also their number 1 man, Steven Kruijswijk. And Kruijswijk is well placed overall in 3rd position. Oh, that's a horrible sign.
4 kilometres to the top of the Col de Soulur.
The individual time trial is called the Test of Truth, the Race of Truth. Maybe Adam Yates has been exposed.
As you said, nowhere to hide in the TT. When they're riding this sort of pace in the mountains, there's also nowhere to hide. To be quickly found out that has happened to Romain Bardet, it is happening to others, and we still have the Or category climb of the Col de Tourmalet to come. It's Amador who's turning the screws in the front along with...
It is Yates, you were right, it's Adam Yates. Mitchelton Scott, they built their tour around Adam Yates. Maybe they had an inside run and they thought Yates wasn't at his best. His brother Simon fights back. Come on, Adam, let's get on. Even if he does, the signs are bad for the Tourmalet that awaits.
He follows the pace of his twin brother, but that gap also just opening up very slightly. He's already in this much trouble on the Soulur. That looks...
Game over.
That looks like game over for the rest of the day, you're right.
It's game over for his objectives in this race. He's been 4th in the past. He's won the white jersey as the best young rider. Mitchelton Scott now, they can't back him to try and finish high overall, surely.
They can't give up yet on this stage. They've got to hope it's just a bad moment and he'll ride his way through it and come good late in the stage. It's a very short stage, be quite a quick start, coming off the back of the time trial, super intense effort. They've got to hope again. That's what it is, but it's not good.
This is just the start, Robbie. Another big day in the Pyrenees tomorrow. These are really bad signs for Adam Yates. And Jack Haig has dropped back. Number 103 has dropped back to support Adam Yates. Number 56, that's Rudy Millard from Group Arma FDJ. More riders being distanced. This is the front of the race, and Vincenzo Nibali, 2.6 kilometres remaining, is up in the tempo. He's responding to the move by Tim Wellens.
Wellens, he's on the hunt for the 10 points available at the top of this Category 1 climb. Nibali, he just sees an opportunity to get rid of a few more and go on the hunt for a stage win. And trying to herd one of the spectators out of the way as the peloton come. Good work from the spectators.
The spectators were good yesterday with Wout van Aert, with the cow on the side of the road. Even better today. It was impressive.
Sorry, Matt, I had to milk it while I had the opportunity.
Boom, boom. Dad jokes right at the fore. Wellens at the front, followed by Nibali. They're only 1:16 ahead of the closing peloton with the yellow jersey still there. Julian Alaphilippe. Zakharin now responds. He is the next to go.
Zakharin really has been the aggressor since they got onto the Col de Soulur, and he is looking like it. First week in this Tour de France. The Russian, he's going across straight past Total Direct Energy rider.
Kalmajan, I think that'll be Sikar. That'll be Roman Sikar, perhaps. Let's go a little bit closer.
Already gone. No, it is.
It's Kalmajan.
That's Leonard Kamna, the next man in the row.
This is Andre Amador, followed by Marc Soler. Movistar making a real mark on this race. Dylan Van Baal is still in that group. This is Fabio Aru at the back of the peloton. Number 136, that is Volker Mollema. Rue is starting to get back towards what we expect from the Italian. Roman Bardet, though, is not. This is moral support for Roman Bardet from Michael Chevelle and Tony Galopin. This has nothing with trying to save his hopes in this year's Tour de France. This is about supporting the person, not the athlete.
Yeah, supporting the person, but this could leave these riders with a long and lonely ride for themselves if Bardet decides this is it and steps off. It would not surprise me.
Michael Chevelle and Tony Galopin. Number 32 is Bardet's roommate throughout the tour. They are very close personal friends. Tony Galopin is one of the statesmen of the team. They're in no fear of being eliminated, even if Bardet does stop. Rui Costa is the rider who's with them in the white colours from UAE. Nibali in red. Gisbert now going forward. One of the big results for Ali Gisbert's career was a solo, and that was in the Tour d'Avenir. So he's a guy who can climb, and he is proving it today. 22-year-old Leonard Kamna in the red colours fighting to stick with the more experienced Ilnaz Zakarin.
Well, Zakarin's come across a big gap. You saw the acceleration from the rest of the group. And you've got to wonder what didn't go with him in the first place. He's making inroads. Wellens in polka dots. Vincenzo Nibali in the red and blue of Bahrain. Gilbert up there as well. Zakarin coming across. Leonard Kamna going in the wrong direction.
He's climbing well. It looks awkward, but it is very effective.
He's getting close, but he's not carrying the momentum he had. And Nibali, he ups the tempo again. He doesn't want a good climber like Zakarin with him, so go a bit quicker, make it harder for him. Happy with a group like take care of these two on the Tourmalet. And it's only a minute and a half to the peloton. You've got to race with everything you've got all the way through.
And based on the interview that we heard earlier on with Tim Wellens, he's part finish line, racing for those 10 points in the King of the Mountains classification. So he's all in to the midway point on the stage. Vincenzo Nibali is thinking about the finish line of the Tourmalet. And Alejandro Valverde was still in the yellow jersey group.
A lot of Spanish fans on the road, a lot of the Basque fans. You just saw one of the Basque flags off to the right-hand side. Opa, Mikel, they're out supporting their riders. The Basque, and they're just fantastic.
Volker Mollema now he's been dropped, so Richie Port for Trek Segafredo looks as if in that group the yellow jersey, Bourne is on his own. Nibali sprinting to the top of this climb. 8 victories and maybe even the King of the Mountains jersey. He's got the current leader of that classification with him. Wellens up alongside the Shark of Messina. A little look across to each other.
Vincenzo Nibali spoke pre-tour before he knew Chris Froome wouldn't start about coming to the tour, going for stages and maybe for the polka dot jersey. It's Nibali. Wellens has got him pinned up against the crowd. The Belgian will be too quick.
The sprint on for the points. Tim Wellens, he just nudged Vincenzo Nibali smartly into the crowd. The gate was Wellens reeled into the boats. He hits the brakes over the top.
Those intentions are clear. He'd love a stage win, but he's starting to think a little bit longer term than that as well. 28 seconds behind.
And I'm not backing Ilnaz Zakarin to catch Vincenzo Nibali on the descent.
Not only that, he'll be losing a lot of
uncertain. Nibali has gone back to plan A and chasing a spot on the podium in Paris with the polka dot jersey. Soignier at the top, fresh bidon for Ilnaz Zakarin. And it's Andre Amador who is on the front for Movistar, and the yellow jersey of Julian Alaphilippe is right behind Miguel Landa.
You want to put me under pressure, huh? I'll just come and ride on the back of your team. You're riding for me. I'm happy here.
Movistar with 5 riders in that group and 1 still to catch on the road. Carlos Ferraro. So too number 3, which is Jonathan Castro-Viejo. This is Andre Amador, the world champion, his teammate, Valverde.
This takes me back to last year's Tour de France. We saw some really aggressive riding by the Movistar team. Very tactical as well, sending riders up the road, attacking board a teammate to make some pace in between climbs. In the end, it blew up in their face and they were dropped. But this is a real show of force.
Richie Port is there, Thibaut Pinot, Bennett, Kruzweig, Rigoberto Urán there in the pink colours. Teammate with him, You would assume that it is Michael Woods, although Michael Woods has had a few crashes. Tanel Kangat, the Estonian from that team, is also a world-class climber.
Movistar with Andre Amador on the front, they'll be looking to not only put pressure on the climb, they'll be putting pressure on the descent. Amador is a very good descender. They'll be dragging them down there very quickly indeed. Adam Yates still not onto the back of this group. It does look to be. You can just go on the climb of the Col de Soleure.
It's definitely lights out for Roman Bardet. For the Mitchelton Scott team, they've been able to pick up a couple of stage victories already. Soon we'll be hearing from Nicola Portal, the sports director for Ineos. I think this is Gisbert, and this is Wellens in front of him. And in the distance you can't see him, it'll be Nibali, and it is one of the best descenders in the world.
It is pressure on. Vincenzo Nibali also realises with just a minute and a half back to the... This is a place he can take advantage of some cautious riding back there to open up the gap and really have a crack at the stage win.
If you like watching fast descending, I suggest you get online and you have a look at Vincenzo Nibali descending off the Poggio last year to win Milan Sanremo ahead of the sprinters. That was one of the best descents you're ever likely to watch. Nibali put on a masterclass. He is the professor of descending this afternoon. Straightens up and Wellens is able to get back to him. But as soon as they're in the corners, Nibali opens the gap again. Fromage of the Pyrenees. We've seen plenty of fouls to help with production of that cheese.
And here's the reinforcements for Movistar.
This is Carlos Verona. He will stay on the front and drive it through the Valley Road. They're really putting this race under pressure. Wellens, Nibali, Gisbert.
Quintana has his heart set on a big performance, and not just an emotional, it's got to be this day because of the date. Nairo Quintana will be feeling really good. He will be having great confidence in his own ability. Saw him do it last year when the roads got above 2,000 metres altitude. He would not have his team ride like this if he wasn't feeling in the right.
Last year that win, high altitude finish above 2,000 metres, shortest road stage of the race. Today, shortest road stage of the race, high altitude finish above 2,000 metres. All the ingredients are there for Nairo Quintana. And I'm of the view his form this year is better than it was last year.
And it seems to suit him really well. A short stage that's intense from start to finish. No let up, no tempo riding on the climbs. Keep everybody at the limit for as long as possible. And then when he gets to those higher altitudes where we have often seen the Colombians come into their own, maybe another man that's liking this is Rigoberto Urán.
Being relaxed at the back, classic Rigoberto Urán. Rockstar style, comes in late. He's got everything just at his feet. He'll never panic, the Rigoberto Urán. He was very good in the time trial yesterday. I think Rigoberto Urán can win today's stage.
I think he can. I'm leaning towards Quintana.
I'm leaning to Urán.
One of the other Colombians would expect it so to France yesterday. That was Miguel Bernal.
And today, surely he has to work for Geraint Thomas.
You would think so. Miguel Bernal, he said himself yesterday after the time trial, it was a bad day to have a bad day. Who knows if he's already back? But I think you're right. The hierarchy in that team now has got to be first for Thomas. If Bernal doesn't have to work, see what he can also do to stay up there.
Green jersey Robbie in the mountains. Peter Sagan hasn't yet been caught by yellow.
Bit of discomfort early on, I think, up past Nicolas San Felix in Alta. But Peter Sagan got himself into the breakaway, helped his friend Vincenzo Nibali get away. Once the pace went on the Soleure, ease it back, roll over the top, relax on the descent, on for a free ride, and he'll come up to the top of the tourmalet to collect another green jersey. Hearing through our race centre, Adam Yates is still 30 seconds behind this group. There's a little bit more descending to come. I'm not so sure it closed 30 seconds. Simon and Adam plus Jack Hay.
This is Vincenzo Nibali in the red colour. Leader of the King of the Mountain classification in third spot, Tim Wellens. He's extended his advantage today. Enzo Nibali wants the polka dot jersey. Shown all the signs. He said that he was aiming for status and the King of the Mountains jersey. It was only when those guys had their bad luck with the crashes that he started to talk about it. There's the gap for Adam Yates behind the peloton. Centre of the course, the leading breakaway group of 3, they're off in the distance. Yates could almost see the convoy of cars behind the peloton. I think he will be able to make contact again. He's going to spend a lot of energy in the process and a lot of energy of his brother Simon and his teammate Jack Hay.
Well, over the last 2 minutes, they haven't gotten any closer. They're still at 31 seconds, in fact. They were into 29. They are losing a little bit of time to this group. I'm not confident for them.
He's been a stage winner at the Tour of Limousine. He was 5th at the Mont Ventoux Challenge earlier on this year. He's riding the Tour for the 3rd time. He's only 24. He's got a lot of experience for a 24-year-old. Gap for Yates. It's only a couple hundred metres behind that main peloton. I do think he'll get there, but then they pay a really hefty price. But look at the gap for Romain Bardet. He's almost 3 kilometres behind the yellow jersey group. Here is a chat with Yates before the start of the stage. Oh, sorry, a little bit of confusion. Yates is at 10 seconds behind. Next, we're going to be hearing from Thibaut Pinot. So Yates is at 10 seconds behind. He will get there.
Well, if I knew Yates would like, it was at 30 seconds like we were seeing, but that wasn't his group.
They've created the barrage, though, Robbie, to make him earn every metre. It's going to be difficult. I thought the convoy was going to be the launching pad to get him there. The UCI, the commissaires, have done the right thing by creating that barrage.
They have. Not in this race situation. You do not get a free ride back across. When you're a contender and you've been dropped.
Let's now go back to the start of the race with Thibaut Pinot, the Frenchman from Groupama FDJ. As Jack Hagan is closing it down, Yates will return. He makes a very good point, Thibaut Pinot. You can only make a plan that your legs can execute. Clearly, he's confident, though, with the amount of work we've seen his teammates doing from Groupama FDJ. This is the second group on the road. The red colours at the back of that group. That was Ilmar Zachary. These are the riders they're chasing, and again into a technical part of the descent, and the gap that has been opened up by Vincenzo Nibali. As soon as it gets technical, Vincenzo puts distance into his breakaway companions. "57 seconds the gap for the chasers. Zachary has been caught by Luis Leon Sanchez and others."
The problem for Vincenzo Nibali gapping these two who have been working smoothly with him, puts himself on his own, and he's got an 18-kilometre section through the sprint, through the feed zone, and to the foot of the Tourmalet. He'd be much better off with 3. He's only a few seconds in front. He'll probably ease up and wait. It'll be the best thing to do in terms of going for the stage win.
He's already around the next corner as well as he's there, still exiting the previous.
So they'll come back together. I think it's Vincenzo Nibali just making sure they push on as fast as possible, give them something to chase. Also gives them a marker on the descent. Follow my line. He's at 3-4 seconds in front. They see his entry point, a little bit of braking. They can judge it much better too. Makes them better descenders.
And the complete opposite to that, in the group at 28 seconds, Ilmar Zachary went over the top of the climb, ahead of Sanchez, Sikar, Kamna and Kalmajan. He's now been caught by those 4 riders. His position in that group, and every single corner they go through is the peloton containing the yellow jersey of Julian Alaphilippe as it swells again. Number 3, Jonathan Castro-Viejo returns.
So Yates is back there. Guy coming into the race as a genuine contender, having before finished 4th overall, having won the white jersey for the best young rider in the Tour de France in the past. And then being dropped on the Category 1 climb when the real focus of the day is the big one at the end, the Tourmalet, the all-category climb to the finish. His morale has taken a beating.
It has a real beating. He needs a fresh start from Bardet. He looks like he needs a holiday. Not just physically, but psychologically, perhaps more so than even physically.
group that formed on the Soulor is going to come back together before we get to the split down to Tourmalet.
And I fear Nibali today is hurting his chances for a future stage victory. 48 seconds in front of the yellow jersey group. Surely they'll be caught on the Colle de Tourmalet. 1 kilometre to the intermediate sprint. Nibali, though, he's a man with loads of experience. And he's a guy that traditionally in Grand Tours gets better into the third week. Here are the chasers. They've cleared out all the vehicles. Not even the Mavic neutral service with the motorbike is between these two groups. It's only 11 seconds. And 48 seconds back to the peloton.
Well, everything closing in, and I think we're going to have a complete front peloton of sorts, a small one, but a complete group when we get to the foot of the Tourmalet. There's Andre Amador, and along with Carlos Verona, that will be their job done. Get to the foot of the Tourmalet, and it's going to be up to the likes of Marc Soler, Alejandro Valverde, Mikel Landa, and Nairo Quintana to see if they can complete the execution of the plan.
I'd like to know the mood inside the Ineos team car, whether they are feeling the pressure of Movistar. That's what Movistar is trying to achieve. They want to put the team of the defending champion under pressure.
They also want to put Alaphilippe under pressure. Yates back of the peloton looking for drinks, both Simon and Adam.
Almost at the intermediate sprint. Wellens in front. Gisbert in second position. Nibali in red. This will not impact on the leaderboard in the battle for the green jersey. Wellens won over the top of the second climb on today's stage, the Colle de Soulor, and he will win the intermediate sprint. Gisbert at 24 shown real maturity, not disrupting the rhythm. Nibali's not interested in this minor prize.
No, Tim Wellens, I doubt he believes in his chances to win the stage, even to take points on the Tourmalet. So just getting whatever he can out of the rest of this stage, the Belgian, and that's why that longer turn. So I'll do a much longer one if I can just roll through the sprint point as first. Still a few points left on the line for the chasing peloton. I'm sure we'll see Peter Sagan also do a turn through the intermediate sprint point and just add to his total and extend what is already a very large lead in the points competition.
And then once they get to the other side of town, it will then be into the feed zone. Peter Sagan now in the green jersey, making the most of the minor points that are on offer. No need to look over the shoulder, Peter. There is no one in that group that will challenge you today. Extends his lead further, on target for a 7th victory in the points classification. 3 riders from Mitchelton Scott at the back of the group.
This is Abbatial, Notre-Dame de Samson, and Saint-Savin.
And this one, Benedictine monastery that was founded around about the 9th century on the ruins of an old Roman palace. In 945, the Counts of Bigorre richly endowed the abbey by purchasing the land and giving them the opportunity with the Benedictine order to build the abbey in this position. It was declared part of the national estate during the French Revolution, and throughout the 1990s, they did a lot of refurbishment, and it now houses a museum of religious art.
This is the Pic Midi d'Ossau, here high in the Pyrenees. The Pic du Midi de Bigorre. The observatory we saw earlier on in the broadcast, right at the start. And that's even overlooking the Tourmalet, well above, around 3,000 metres, just a touch under. Just 2,850 something.
Correct. That's roughly what it stands at. It was good to see earlier on as well. There was somebody there dressed up as an astronaut. Today marking the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. This is the leading group. Calmejean at the back in the blue colours of Total Direct Energy. He's found his form. He, by his own admission, was really struggling in the first week. He's now been in a couple of important breakaways. Wellens with the King of the Mountains jersey. Nibali collecting the musette bag from the side of the road. If you have just joined us, let's now take a look back at the stage so far and show you what you might have missed out on. is the Bardet group with pretty much all of his teammates around him. 7 riders from AG to Le Mondial in this group. The only one missing, Alexis Guillemot, I didn't spot there. It's a sad sight to look at the size of this group with non-climbers in here and lots of them.
Missing a lot of sprinters. This is Roman Sicard at the front of the race for Total Direct Energy, trying to get himself onto the foot of the Tourmalet first as they ride up the Valley Road. Vincenzo Nibali, he just continues to tap out the rhythm. So don't worry about attacking up the road. Let's try and work together, see if we can possibly open this gap. Peloton take their foot off the gas through the feed zone. We might be able to take a few more seconds.
For Roman Sicard of Total Direct Energy, this is as close as he'll get to his home region. He's from the Basque country on the French side of the border.
Looking to impress the family and the fans and not taking their foot off the gas whatsoever. His team Movistar.
Sega in the break, mopping up the points from that main peloton at the intermediate sprint. There's Sicard in the distance, opening up a small advantage.
The rest of the group seem to be letting Vincenzo Nibali, or putting the pressure on Vincenzo Nibali to do the bulk of the work in the pace meter in front of this group. And that time gap is coming down. 39 seconds, 40. It's going up a little bit for Sicard, but that main part of that breakaway group back towards the peloton.
10 years ago, he was the big hope of French cycling. He won the Tour Avenir for the future stars of the Tour de France. In the same year, in a really hilly course in Mendrisio, the World Championships in Switzerland, he won the under-23 road race solo. Intermediate sprint, Wellens collected the 20 points, but Peter Sagan in 9th position, 7 more points in the race for him. Here he is, Roman Sicard, our sole leader at 31 seconds ahead of the yellow jersey group.
And it's a technical descent, so you've got to think of those numbers in terms of a really winding technical descent where you don't get a long straight section to build up really high speeds for a long period. 3.2 kilometres to the climb of today's stage. It is a 4-category climb, and at the top, as well as the stage win, there's also the Souvenir Chaque Bonnet Reprise. Going to the winner on top of the Tourmalet. The highest point in the Pyrenees they'll race. It's the highest paved road in the French Pyrenees.
Not too far away from the Spanish border. Super motivated today. And their Colombian star, Nairo Quintana, is priority number 1. Near a similar way to Simon Clark when he was in the breakaway, but once they hit the bottom of the climb, the tank will be empty. And for Roman Sicard, with the most combative prize, he has not won a race in the pro peloton. 10 years since his last victory, that was the under-23 World Championships in Mendrisio 2009. Is break it down into bite-sized pieces. Now he breaks it down into this 20-kilometre climb.
This is really good for Sicard. Tailwind up the valley. And him pushing the lead out to nearly a minute and a half now.
Mikel Landa now on the radio. He's had a tough tour, one disrupted by bad luck.
But you never know what you're going to get with Mikel Landa. You said priority number 1 for Movistar is Nairo Quintana. I'm wondering if that's just what they're telling Mikel Landa now as a reminder. Yeah, but the enigmatic Spaniard so often does whatever he wants.
And he's reported to be going to Bahrain Merida next year. Quintana reported to be going to RKS Samsung. And Movistar are on the hunt for Enric Mas, who wears the white jersey today at the Koenig Quick-Step.
His interview this morning, he said, we're going to give everything for Julien. We are starting to believe he can get to Paris in yellow.
Underneath the 20-kilometre marker, the climb of the Tourmalet is about to start. He just nags away uphill. This is a gradient of around about 2% or so, maybe even a little bit more than that for Rome. As the real climb for the Frenchman is about to start. Here come the chasers. Gisbert at the front, followed then by Calmejean. When you're not here throughout the Tour de France, it really is a very peaceful, calming region. This is the Chateau Sainte-Marie, which we're now getting a chance to look at. This was built by the Count of Bigorre back in the 10th century. It housed also the Hospital of St. John, later the Knights of Malta, then the English garrison during the 100 Years' War. There are the numbers, 19 kilometres.
These are the first chasers. Elie Gibert, the man in white and black. Lilian Kalmajan.
Still Movistar at the front. Astana coming around the outside, making sure that they position Jakob Fuglsang. Richie Port is in there with one teammate. He's got Volker Mollema for support.
And Richie Port, he has promised that he is going to for when the big mountains start. That is today. He said he's feeling fresh, he's feeling good, he's feeling confident, despite losing a lot of time. He's ready to go.
He has always spoken about week 3, and the Alps are still to come. Col de Tourmalet. Carlos Verona, one last time to the well.
Peter Sagan and the men around him, they've decided that is enough. We're going to get to the finish okay. With him, Ilnur Zakarin, the man who was in the breakaway. Also, Vincenzo Nibali, Tis Benoit, he will play no further role.
And Kamna, who was in that earlier breakaway. So once they realise they're caught, save the energy and look for the next opportunity to try and win a stage. That's Ali Gisbert at the front for Arkea Samsic. It's still Movistar. Ineos, still with plenty of riders in that group. They've still got 4 there. It looks like Jonathan Castroviejo has returned, and Mikhail Kwiatkowski. 3 riders in there for Jumbo-Visma, supporting Steven Kruijswijk, George Bennett and Lawrence de Plus.
This is now Gibert going away from Lilian Kalmajan and going in search of Roman Sicard.
Kalmajan had been sitting behind him the whole time. Shows the strength of Gisbert.
At least for Elie Gibert, he had that tailwind up the valley, so it didn't make a lot of difference to him, and he's chasing that one man in front. Now he goes in search of Sicard. The peloton, they are around 45 seconds behind him.
The 24-year-old riding the tour for the front of him. Or have they? No, they haven't. Not just yet. They should be, because this is the man he is chasing. This is Roman Sicard. One last bidon practice. The steady nature of this climb, it does suit Geraint Thomas and Dylan van Baarle.
I agree with you completely. It suits Thomas. It does get steeper at the top, but remember what he did on La Planche de Belfi when the gradients were up to 24%. Really interrupted. The altitude training camp snowed out. The crash in the Tour de Suisse today will give us a much better indication than yesterday did in the time trial. Sheltered, Julien Alaphilippe.
Also in that group, Jakob Fuglsang was there for this Dana team. He's got quite a few teammates around him. The white colours of UAE Emirates. Dan Martin is in the group. Rigoberto Urán is there. He has Volker Mollema as Ali Gibert is getting across to Roman Sicard. And he is at his limit. Off from the front of the peloton for the Movistar team. It's now Andre Amador who is setting the pace. Roman Sicard. Does Gibert force the pressure or have a little bit of a rest? It's a little bit of a rest. He'll have a drink and then he needs to maintain this rhythm. Somehow. Easier said than done.
Because it's not quick enough, he needs to go straight past him, which he does.
Straight away. He's showing real maturity for a 24-year-old.
And looking straight away, it wasn't a look as if, say, are you coming with me? Am I dropping you already?
And he is. That is the answer. Not happy with the tempo. This has been impressive.
So Elie Gibert, he's offloaded Kalmajan out of his wheel. He's ridden across to his teammate Sicard, and he's also got rid of him. And it's the young Frenchman from Arkea Samsic who now pushes on the lower slopes of the Tourmalet.
It's nice to be having this conversation about him as opposed to Gianni Moscon. Let's put that behind us as Ali Gisbert is applying the pressure at the front, hunting for a stage victory.
More riders out the back now. Lutsenko and Luis Leon Sanchez from Astana going out the back of the bunch. Their job is done for today. They've supported Jakob Fuglsang. This is Kalmajan. He's been swallowed up and spat out.
Back of the peloton, Mitchelton Scott out of the saddle. That looked like one of the Yates brothers.
It looked looked more like Adam's style than Simon's, but we didn't get a read of the number. And, yeah, of course, being identical twins, it is somewhat difficult.
And Alejandro Valverde, Nairo Quintana. In that group, Mikel Landa. So well represented at the front, the Movistar team. 10% gradient.
This is Gilbert, the young French peloton. He's matching Andre Amador, pedal stroke for pedal stroke, but there's still more to come from Movistar. Marc Soler lining up behind, ready to do a turn of pace.
Behind Alaphilippe is his teammate in white, and that is the best young rider, Enric Mas, the facial expression of Egan Bernal.
Bearing the teeth, Dan Martin gone once and returned. Now it's gone twice. I don't see him coming back again. In sweat to a very, very warm day out there as well. The Spaniards, they'll be loving it. Maybe the Welshmen less so.
Yellow everywhere. But it's a man in white for Arkea Samsic. The smallest or the second smallest budget in the race, Arkea Samsic, behind Wanty Group Goubert. And their 24-year-old French climber, Ali Gisbert, is the man who was leading the charge up one of the most famous climbs in the history of the Tour. The 83rd time onto the Col de Tourmalet, first scaled in 1910 in this race. Still Movistar, still Amador. As Volker Mollema somehow has made his way to the front of that group. He's been yo-yoing on and off the back. He's towed Richie Porte around. He's been there to support him. Volker Mollema is doing an outstanding job.
Well, Porte back towards the back of the group again. So Mollema, he brought Porte up towards the front, right up to the wheel of Julien Alaphilippe. Since dropped further back.
This is Mollema with the yellow helmet on and the white and red colours. Trek Segafredo leading the team's classification. EF in the pink colours, Education First. They have Rigoberto Urán and Tanel Kangout in that group.
Really a game effort by Elie Gebert, riding against the same man over the last 10 or 12 kilometres now. Andre Amador, only 11 kilometres to go. There's been a super effort by the Costa Rican on the front of the peloton, still with Soler, Valverde, Landa and Quintana to come.
Riding to instruction at the front, Andre Amador. Access to the Pic de Midi, the observation tower that we saw some footages of a little earlier. Number 91, Rigoberto Urán, hard to read the body language, often sits towards the back, rode well on the time trial yesterday.
Yet some riders prefer to just drift through the group, not hold one position, but go with how the legs feel. Castroviejo, he's dropped. He'll switch things off and just roll his way up to the top.
No benefit in Castroviejo trying to limit the damage. He needs to actually save the energy for the next day, as you alluded to moments ago.
At Team Ineos, they don't think about it as the individual's energy reserve. It's the team's energy reserve, and you're a part of that machine. It's done for Amador. Huge job by number 63, the Costa Rican.
That was impressive. That is what a domestic does when they empty the tank. He has come to a grinding halt. Bilbao now number 72 for Astana. He is really suffering.
Well, now Marc Soler will have gone to the front of the group for Movistar. Richie Porte starts to move up because it's becoming more urgent, more important to sit forward. Riders are now starting to be offloaded. Volker Mollema going back as well. Nairo Quintana now a long way in the back of the group.
And a long way forward in the saddle, which is always a sign of suffering. Number 12 is Emmanuel Buchmann. He's in 6th place overall. 91 is Rigoberto Urán. The French champion who says he wants to be a car salesman, Warren Barguil, is at the front. Don't worry about selling cars. Worry about winning bike races. You're one of the best in the world. The peace and quiet, the tranquility at the top. Ali Gisbert about to be caught, but this is deserving of the red number for the most combative. He should get a spot on the podium.
It's been a great ride by Gilbert. Richie Porte again, another acceleration. So just hopping around riders who are starting to be distanced.
This is Roman Kreuziger, the best placed overall for Dimension Data. Started the day in 19th. He fights on. He will fight all the way to the finish to limit the damage.
Aru now also being dropped. No surprise, it's the start of a big comeback.
Quintana is being dropped. Movistar doing all the work at the front, and Nairo Quintana is being dropped.
Well, this is now a huge surprise.
Now it's all for Mikel Landa. Number 8, that is Dylan van Baarle. It's been extraordinary for the Dutchman to survive this long. He's a specialist for the classics such as the Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix.
Well, after Quintana, the next is Alejandro Valverde, but he is the man at the front of the group.
It's for Landa. This is for Mikel Landa, who is third in line for Movistar. It's Soler, Valverde, the world champion, then Mikel Landa.
So maybe those injuries for Quintana are much worse than we thought. He said, don't make a big deal of it. It'll only make the people at home worry. Well, they are obviously affecting him because he's going out the back and his team is continuing to drive it at the front.
And there he is. Nairo Quintana is all on his own. And the composure of the yellow jersey, Julian Alaphilippe looks as comfortable as anybody in that leading group.
You can hide for a little while in the Tour de France. You can bluff it for a bit. When you get in the high mountains like this, eventually the truth comes out. And I think now we're discovering the extent of the injury to Nairo Quintana from that crash a couple of days ago.
He looked so good in the first week. He looked good on stage 6 de La Ponce de Belleville. Twice second, once third. The podium will...
But hurting on the inside, Nairo Quintana.
The telltale sign is how far forward he was in the saddle when we looked at him at the back of the group. And over the shoulder, this is Marc Soler
trying to salvage it for Quintana, sending Soler back. In the meanwhile, it was Valverde on the front.
Soler.
Do they now stop riding at the front? Soler's gone back for Quintana. He's got him. Aru is there behind him. Dylan van Baarle is the man in front of Marc Soler. That's the gap to the main group. And now
yes,
as Ineos have taken over the pacemaking. So Movistar, so aggressive, been on the front for most of the stage.
Barguil now attacks the French national champion. Says he wants to be a car salesman. Well, see if he can buy a pair of these wheels. Can they track him down? 6 minutes 39 seconds
Problem
behind.
for Barguil. He stopped pedalling. Chain
Mechanical problem.
Mechanical. He's got it back on.
Perhaps he was going to the big chain ring.
Whatever he was doing, he flipped the chain off.
But he stayed calm. Richie Port, Volker Mollema at the back of this group for Trek Segafredo.
Now it's Wout Poels.
Lawrence de Plus is here for Jumbo-Visma. And in second position for Jumbo-Visma is George Bennett.
A lot of talking within Team Ineos. Here's the attack back of the group. So he starts his attack from 30 metres behind the lead of the group.
He's found his rhythm now, Warren Barguil. Arkea Samson.
They are riding a great stage.
Do they really need to hire Nairo Quintana? That's the rumour that Quintana is going across next year. This group has really slowed down as Dylan van Baarle has recaught them.
That was the talking we saw from Ineos. We saw Egan Bernal on the radio. Thomas behind him looking like he was suffering. The pace was being set by Wout Poels. Now they've eased off. Van Baarle comes back to the front. In control at the moment with just Barguil off the front.
Warren Barguil. He gets the support even by the Basque spectators. He starts the day 6:39 down in the overall classification. But at what point does Geraint Thomas and Team Ineos start to worry about the yellow jersey, about Julian Alaphilippe, who leads by 1 minute and 26 seconds? Well, Pauls perhaps is asking exactly the same question of Geraint Thomas. They're in deep conversation. Number 71, Jakob Fuglsang. He said yesterday for the first time, stepping onto the team bus, he didn't feel his knee from the crash on stage 1.
Time performer Barguil, and with 8 kilometres to go, a 12-second gap. None of the big favourites have made a move as yet, so I'm not going to call him as a possible stage winner at this moment. But a great ride by Arkea Samsic. We've seen Gilbert, we've seen riders in the break, and now their team leader off the front at the hottest point of the race so far.
Can we go possible with a hesitation? Because he is making the race, and that is the destination. The mythical Colle Tourmalet.
That is the top of the climb, and look at the fans on the hillside. They are up here in their thousands lining the roads.
What a stadium. And it's been closed for a long time. Look at how far down those camper vans are, making their way up on foot. The man affectionately known as Wawa is wowing the French public. 15 seconds. I'm hearing you about the fact that the big favourites, they haven't accelerated yet. There's still 7.7 kilometres to go. But this is the best he's looked in 2 years. What a long shot.
Oh, most definitely. That's an easy one to pick. It's the best he's been in a long time. Team Ineos taking responsibility. And are they lulling the rest of the favourites into a false sense of security? Maybe they're just trying to go a little bit slower at a pace that suits a Thomas that's possibly suffering. He wants to win on the Tourmalet. He's talked the talk, and Pinot goes to the front. It's David Gaudu away from Ineos. We see it often, the acceleration. It's not followed by the British team, and they try to wind it back in. But with a man in form like Thibaut Pinot, can they do it? It's panic stations a little bit behind. Jakob Fuglsang reacts.
So too does Miguel Landa from Movistar.
And Alejandro Valverde, he follows the wheel. The riders from Jumbo-Visma, Steven Kruijswijk, and not a move yet by Ineos. They are sensing a weakness.
At the back, 25, the white jersey. That is Enric Mas. 136 with the yellow number on. That is Bauke Mollema. Well, Poles is still in this group. De Plus, Kruijswijk and Bennett for Jumbo-Visma. Kruijswijk is looking really dangerous for yellow. Richie Porte is still in that group. He slots himself in behind the white jersey of Enric Mas. But the gap is starting to open for Mas behind the yellow of Alaphilippe Gaudu. The 22-year-old of French cycling setting the tempo. This is Kanker now being dropped in pink.
Bauke Mollema struggling in the back. Richie Porte looking over his shoulder, seeing how much room he's got to drift when the pace comes on. Barguil still punching it out, 18 seconds in front.
Hasn't lost any real time though. It's been an acceleration, but not any significant time loss for Warren Barguil. This is Mollema, the Dutchman. Third in the 2011 Volta a España.
In front of him, last man on the group now is Richie Porte. Mollema struggles his way back into the wheels.
He's a picture of suffering, Bauke Mollema, and he knows how to go deep. This is good though, followed by Pinot. It's then Fuglsang, Movistar with Landa. For the first time this morning, we heard Thibaut Pinot talking up the fight.
Looking at the faces, the two that look the most comfortable in the group were the Frenchmen on the front, Gaudu and Pinot.
Bauke Mollema still fighting, still clawing his way back. One pedal stroke at a time. Richie Porte is at the rear of the group.
Barguil takes another second on the chasers.
3 riders remaining. Number 1, you can see the hips from number 1, Geraint Thomas. They were starting to rock and roll.
Usually so solid in the seat, Geraint Thomas. Now a bit of movement, rocking and rolling. Quintana, he's being further distanced. He is now 36 seconds behind the group of the Maillot Jaune.
They're those little signs, sitting forward in the saddle. The hips rocking and rolling forward a bit more. A bigger gear than normal as opposed to the souplesse of a high pedaling cadence. Geraint Thomas looks to be under a little pressure.
Warren Barguil holding more or less steady, 17 seconds. And we've spoken so much about it, about the defending champion of the Tour, Geraint Thomas. He may get found out the lack of preparation, and it was going to take a long time in this Tour to get to that point. This is the first proper big mountain.
Here are the gaps on the road. The far right, Yates a long way behind. Then it's Quintana. He's at 300 metres behind the yellow jersey group. And then out in front on his own to the tune of 15 seconds is Warren Barguil. Fernando Quintana, he's 29 years of age, but it feels like his best is behind him. He hasn't been anywhere near it for the last 2 years by comparison to our expectations of him. He's won the Giro, he's won the Vuelta.
And we just can't know the effect that that crash on stage 11 has had on him, whether he had it in him coming into this tour or not, and it's so hard to get a read on Narrow Quintana.
We'll never know the answer to that question, the size of the impact of that crash.
12 seconds now for Warren Barguil. David Godou, he is making inroads on the lead, down to 10 seconds. Thibaut Pinot, he's got his heart set on this one. He's ridden this climb so many times. You spoke about his fastest time up there, and we talk sometimes about Strava records. His best time is 10 seconds inside the Strava record. Barguil, he sees that he seemed to ease off.
He knows he's about to be caught, so he's riding smartly. He's saving something for the next attack. That's clever by Warren Barguil. This is not Barguil, full stick, trying to fend them off. The yellow jersey is still there, Julien Alaphilippe. He dares to dream, so too do the French. They want him to believe. And at number 1, Geraint Thomas, is a long way back in that group.
Suffering or bluffing?
Give me 5.7 kilometres and I'll tell you the answer. That's the beauty of the tour this year. It is wide open. Godou, he ups the tempo. They see the capture and they see the gap starting to open up behind. The young Frenchman is applying pressure.
Barguil, he's slotted back in fifth wheel, just ahead of the 3 riders from Jumbo-Visma. There goes one overboard for Ineos. That's
and Richie
pulls.
Porte is also overboard. He was good yesterday against the clock. Porte is now really suffering. 15th overall at 4:44. He might still improve his position overall today, but this is difficult. Enric Mas is the next.
Enric Mas, he was the GC hope for De Koenig Quickstep coming into the Tour de France, but it's Julien Alaphilippe in the yellow jersey who is still holding strong in the group just ahead of him. Oh, the teeth starting to come out from Thibaut Pinot. Jakob Fuglsang, he is cruising near the front and looking good. Julien Alaphilippe out of the saddle, dancing on those pedals like he always does. I'm tipping him to hold yellow.
He's starting to become a big contender. Wout Poels is at the back of the group. He latches on with the world champion, Alejandro Valverde. Egan Bernal and Geraint Thomas still in this group for Ineos.
Alaphilippe tracking Team Ineos. He almost hasn't left the wheel of Geraint Thomas. Valverde now at the back of the group. This is Poels. His job is done.
Not much left for him to do. Wout Poels is now being distanced. I don't think he'll come back a second time.
He's gone for...
He took a long-range attack to Alpe d'Huez. We're seeing the suffering now of Julien Alaphilippe. He is digging deeper into the barrel. There can't be much left in the tank, can there, with all the race. And they've raced for more than 2,000 kilometres already.
You know, it's hard to tell with Julien Alaphilippe if it's suffering or selling the show. Buy a ticket and get on board with Julien Alaphilippe. It's always spectacular. And look at how small the group is, and he's still there. Never been in this position before in a Grand Tour.
Whichever it is, I'm buying 2 tickets and I'm bringing in a guest front seat to watch Julien Alaphilippe.
Thomas makes a move up the inside, improving his position in the red, up and around the riders of Jumbo-Visma.
Just to remind everybody, he's still there. And he is. He slots himself alongside Jakob Fuglsang. Bernal comes with him.
Little flatter section, so taking advantage of just flattening out. Gain a bit of momentum, ride your way around the group, find some shelter from the wind as well, because there's a few little turns where the breeze will hit them. Anything is enough.
Valverde still suffering at the back of the world champion. The yellow jersey, Alaphilippe, he sits behind the French champion, Barguil. In front of Barguil, it's Emmanuel Buchmann. Then the pink colours of EF Rigoberto Urán. 3 there for Jumbo-Visma, Kruijswijk, De Kloes and Bennett. Miguel Landa is here for Movistar in 4th position. Jakob Fuglsang sits in 3rd spot. At the front is David Godou, followed by his team leader, Thibaut Pinot. 27 seconds back to Enric Mas, and that is in the vicinity of Richie Porte.
Well, Richie Porte had vowed to start going on the attack, trying to get back some time. It's not working out so far for him today. Godou, he goes again. The young Frenchman. Frenchman, 22 years old. He'd been riding on the front, setting the tempo for Thibaut Pinot, and now he's on the attack, looking for the stage win.
He's rolled as the pacemaker. He's more than the pacemaker. He is charging up this climb. The reaction now coming from George Bennett. He tries to chase.
Jumbo-Visma coming to the front. Egan Bernal moving around now onto the wheel of the men in black and yellow.
But with that acceleration, as Warren Barguil has been dropped, Geraint Thomas slipped to the rear of the group.
Well, they'll be direct to sportives, they'll be sitting in the cars, they'll be watching a broadcast and deciding their tactics on what they see in the rest of the group. They'll be really paying attention to Thomas slipping back. Alaphilippe, he just continues to surprise. Rigoberto Urán on the right, number 91. Still right in this for a stage win, the Colombian.
He is. He hasn't put his nose in the wind yet.
They're coming back to Godou.
They are.
Alaphilippe, he stays with Thomas. Wherever he's been, Alaphilippe has followed.
Now David Godou has been reeled back in, and it's Lawrence de Plus who has done the job.
De Plus, Bennett, Steven Kruiswijk, Emmanuel Bookman, number 12 up the front for Bora, also riding a fantastic stage. Landa is next to him. Godou, he now goes backwards. That was it, maybe. It was asked of him to go on the attack, do everything he can for Thibaut Pinot.
Pinot was putting his hand in the pocket to get a bite to eat. David, the great pacemaker. Fantastic performance by David Godou. Hill now fighting for survival. He's getting his way towards the top 10 overall as the yellow jersey, Julian Alaphilippe, is still here.
Fulson now to the back of the group. He'll be riding comfortably in around third wheel for most of the climb. Now he's slid backwards. Naros Quintana, he is 1 minute 50 now behind the front of the race. A big loss for the Colombian.
And Ford and Enric Mas at 42 seconds behind. Jumbo-Visma, the man on the front, is their new recruit this season. That is Lawrence de Plus. He's the best Belgian climber of his generation.
They've won the team's time trial. They won a stage with Teunissen, stage with Van Aert, stage with Groenewegen, and the climbers are now getting their chance to represent. They have been the team of the Tour. And Steven Kruiswijk, third overall coming into the stage. He will also be dreaming of yellow. But at the moment, it's the man pulling faces who's wearing it, and they're not getting rid of him.
The world champion, though, they have managed to cause a gap to Alejandro Valverde. It's extraordinary at 39 years of age that he's still here and he's still a factor. Lawrence de Plus applying the pressure. Bennett looks so comfortable. He was dragged to the Tour for this reason. And speaking of dragging his way back is Warren Barguil. The French champion is on a good one.
Julian Alaphilippe, a sideways look at Barguil. Alaphilippe, he's bobbing up and down and still in the wheel of Thomas and still hanging on the back of this group. It only gets harder towards the top. The altitude increases and so does the gradient.
And at the moment, it's Jumbo-Visma riding with confidence. Tête de la course with Kruiswijk and his teammates. It's then the Port group along with Enric Mas. They're at 43 seconds. Next in line is Nairo Quintana. Yates is a long way behind. And Bardet is well and truly gone.
This is now the steep section of the climb that they are on. 3 kilometres to go. It kicks up. Average gradient over this kilometre, 11%.
That is brutal. And the altitude starts to touch on almost 2,000 metres. Valverde. This is de Plus, followed by Bennett. Then it's Kruiswijk. The human coat hanger still looks good.
Look at the face of Kruiswijk. Relaxed, controlled. Bookman still looking good at the front of the group as well. Vogelsang here, number 71 at the back, just in front of the French champion Barguil. Yellow jersey glued to the wheel of Thomas. Now it's George Bennett. De Plus is done.
Bennett checks across the shoulder. Great job by de Plus. Bennett ups the tempo. You can see the way the group thins out a little. Congratulations, 83. Switch off, save your legs for tomorrow because your team leader is on a good one. He sits in second. It's Steven Kruiswijk.
It's George Bennett, the Kiwi. He ups the tempo. Steven Kruiswijk.
He said faster.
George, faster. Wind it up. I've got more.
The yellow jersey's right in a huge gear. He is muscling his way to the top of the climb.
He is doing an exceptional job, Julian Alaphilippe, and as always, flicking the legs, trying to shake the lactic acid out of those quadriceps. Alejandro Valverde, he's dropped further back. His teammate Nairo Quintana no longer a factor either. It's at the front of the race, and it's Jumbo-Visma putting the pressure on, and the yellow jersey will not let go.
And he will be in yellow tonight. He is not losing 1 minute and 26 seconds in the last 2.3 kilometres.
I'm going to hold off on agreeing just yet. It is brutal towards the top. Really, the steepest sections coming up towards the finish line. We're hitting the altitude, and when you suddenly pop, you go bang.
Well, his buffer to Steven Kruijswijk, who sits in second spot, is 2 minutes and 12 seconds. His advantage over the defending champion, second overall, is 1:26 to Geraint Thomas. The stringing out, the pressure of Bennett's.
Bennett's now got them single file. We saw Kruijswijk ask him to go faster. That is just begging for an attack to come from the Dutchman, from Jumbo-Visma.
Well, the Kiwis, they're famous for their climbers, most significantly Sir Edmund Hillary. They've got a good one again, and this time it's Bennett, who loves the high mountains.
11 men remained in the front of the race. 2 from Jumbo-Visma, 2 from Ineos, and the rest are on their own.
Bennett, Kruijswijk, then Lander. Next in line is Bookman, followed by Bernal, then Thomas. Another move coming around the outside. It's Thibaut Pinot. His teammates have done some work. It's just to get to the front. That's to move around traffic. There he is, a little grimace. That was hard. Just get alongside Kruijswijk.
This is shaping up to be a group sprint at the top of the Col de Tourmalet. It stands at 2,115 metres above sea level. This short stage, it has delivered the biggest punch, and now it's Barguil going in and Fuglsang.
Jakob Fuglsang paying the price for the crash on stage 1. Now the move is coming from Lander. Bennett was pulled off the front by Kruijswijk, or was he? No, Kruijswijk sending Bennett to the front once again.
He doesn't want the pace to drop. There were riders coming around. Once they got to the front, they were backing it off. That's the tactic. Get around and try and slow it down so they don't get dropped. Fuglsang, no good looking over the shoulder. The answer's not there. And Uran.
Rigoberto Uran in pink. The Colombian continues to fight. The pace, does it back off ever so slightly and give him a chance? Clear the road, the Colombians are shouting.
Nobody wants to sit in a single file line and give away metres. The crowd, they need to back off. And from 11, there's now 8.
Bernal is still here, so the Colombians still have hope on Independence Day. Bennett, Kruijswijk, Lander, Bookman. Isn't he riding well? The yellow jersey, Julian Alaphilippe, is the story of 2019.
The crowd is in a frenzy. There's a Frenchman in yellow, and he's holding strong with the best GC riders in the world. Bookman goes to the front.
Bernal responds. Then it's Thibaut Pinot. Egan Bernal responding as Geraint Thomas's teammate is suffering. Bennett takes up the chase.
The German climber from Bora Hansgrohe and Geraint Thomas. There's a gap. Thomas is being dropped.
We await the arrival of the defending champion. First in before him, though, will be Rigoberto Uran. As Thomas has almost collapsed. Uran at 30 seconds. Thomas, he could be caught by Barguil, not quite. 36 seconds. 36 seconds, the deficit for the defending champion. Celebration. An emotional day for Thibaut Pinot.
They put some cards on the table early. FDJ, they joined the chase early on the stage, believing in Thibaut Pinot. But Julian Alaphilippe, and after yesterday, surely the French journalists are out of superlatives. They're going to have to make up words for this one. Pinot and Alaphilippe, 1-2 on the Tourmalet, not only defending yellow, but opening the gap.
We know what's going to be on the front and the back pages of all the papers in France tomorrow. It will be French success, the stage, and yellow. 1985 was a long, long time ago. Now we have Frenchmen at the top.
Renaissance.
We say so. Led by Alaphilippe, followed by Thibaut Pinot. Oh, the extraordinary results for Thibaut Pinot, winning stages at the Tour de France. He's won at the top of Alpe d'Huez, as he referred to. Also here now at the Col de Tourmalet. It was a dramatic day, surrounded by the best climbers in the world on one of the most iconic climbs. And as he said at the end, this tour is not over. There is a long way to go. He's made up a little bit of time overall. He started at 3 minutes and 22 seconds behind Julian Alaphilippe, but he's also gained time on the likes of Geraint Thomas, and his confidence will be building. Thibaut Pinot knows he can go the distance. It's arguably the best victory of his career because of the challenges that he's had over the last couple of seasons to come back from those, and he's won with the pressure of expectation, and he concedes he doesn't enjoy that.
So I'll go with, not arguably, just the best victory of his career. That was incredible.
He's had some big ones.
Look at the fight here behind. The fight against themselves as much as each other.
Celebration for Pinot, 6 seconds the gap. Is still very much a factor for that team, and he's the best placed overall for them in second position of the general classification. But once again, it was Thibaut Pinot who won. They can be really happy. You think he can hold on to the jersey tomorrow? I tend to agree. Then there's the rest day, then a flat stage to Nîmes, then a long day to Gap, and then 3 days in the Alps, and his buffer is 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Unsung hero of the day, David Gaudu, for the work that he did for Thibaut Pinot, and Emmanuel Buchmann. Emmanuel Buchmann, his ride to finish 4th on the stage and move himself into 5th position overall. We celebrated the performance of David Gaudu throughout the stage, but not enough about the ride by Emmanuel Buchmann. Unsung heroes.
Yes, we did sing the praises of Gaudu quite a lot, and it was a very good ride. But I lean towards Buchmann.
So you're going with Buchmann.
Yep.
Review of the photo, you're going with Emmanuel Buchmann for the unsung hero.
Yep, photo finish, and he got it by 4 centimetres.
Bike IQ moved the day as we look at the Église of Saint-Louis. This one goes right back to the 12th century. It was made of granite when the first stones were laid. It's been listed as a historical monument since 1910. Nice views overlooking the valley. Bike IQ move of the day, Vincenzo Nibali was in the breakaway. As soon as it was clear that that breakaway was doomed, he sat up and rode really conservatively. And further evidence of that smart move by Vincenzo Nibali. He's in a potential stage-winning break today.
No surprise, Vincenzo Nibali, he is one of, if not the smartest bike rider in the peloton.
So speeds on the descent. The top speed of Michael Matthews, 85.1 kilometres per hour. He took some risks to close down that gap.
That was chasing that front group. So Matthews and the small group he was in, they needed to take the risk off the top through the KOM, in the fog, through the cloud, and to close that gap.
So you agree with the IQ move by Nibali from yesterday?
100%.
Excellent. So George Bent at the top of the media medal. This is Rigoberto Urán, 7th overall at 4 minutes and 24 seconds behind. He is still really dangerous in this race, Rigoberto Urán. A sense of calm has returned to the back of the peloton. This breakaway group, they're underneath the kite, 1 kilometre to go to the intermediate sprint.
And Matthews tracking everything. For a man who said, I've given up on green, well, he's been tracking everything. He goes again.
This is Caruso. And Matthews wants a piece of the action. Matthews is currently 4th in this classification. If he wins here, he moves up to 3rd place ahead of Elia Viviani. But he's looking across the shoulder and he's spending a lot of energy. Niels Pollitt is the rider that is behind him.
Then there's a gap behind that. So Matthews will be hoping that he'll get an easier ride through to the line, that Colle won't go and challenge him. His Potts managed to ride the slipstream of Matthews across this gap. 3 of them off the front. I'm surprised to see such a battle for it by riders who don't have any points in the green jersey competition as yet.
Matthews now stays in the slipstream. Niels Collett is getting the jump on him. Wrong shoulder for Michael Matthews, but he's got the speed to get the better of Niels Collett, and he collects 20 points.
He worked hard for that one, Michael Matthews. And this is where and why I'm disappointed that Michael Matthews gave up the fight for the green. We've seen them in the past. It's been often Chris Froome will choose one stage where he gives it absolutely everything, opens up a big gap on the rest, also will give them a good clip over their ear in the time trial. But in the other stages, it's a lot more controlled, only accelerating in the final few hundred metres quite often to take a few seconds here and there, but just to defend the lead right fairly conservatively. Now they're behind in the stages, ticking away one by one. They are going to have to come up with a different style of racing if they're going to unseat Julien Alaphilippe. And at the moment, although there was all this early aggression, it's looking good for Julien Alaphilippe. He has not been isolated. Credit to his team for staying in the group for some of them, chasing back on for others. They're doing the job.
This lead group now has split through that intermediate sprint. This is Marc Soler now at the front. He's followed by Bilbao from Astana. It's a handy little sprint. That is Julien Bernard just behind him from Trek Segafredo.
2 Movistar riders in the group. Amador was the man for the back of the group. Nairo Quintana is back in the main group of that breakaway. Nibali. So we take a nice flyover in Tarascon-sur-Ariège.
Little town just went over the entail of Castelia just a moment ago. The church of Notre Dame de Seba. The church we just had a brief look at. Doing a very good job, the Koenig Quick-Step team, retaining that breakaway. It hasn't been much more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds their advantage. This is at the back of the breakaway group as they come into the feed zone. And this is the little split that has gone off the front from that group. And Julien Bernard from Trek Segafredo is pretty keen to press on. Through the feed is a good opportunity because there'll be a few riders taking it slightly easier back in that bigger portion of the breakaway. And they've already gained 250 metres.
Well, you've got to pay attention everywhere, and the smartest riders, they track the move through the intermediate sprint, road in the wheels, no sprints, just follow the speed as much as possible, and then go on with it. Hello Bilbao, he's also made it in here.
Matthews in the red colours, Bilbao just behind him. Colle is there for Katusha. The Russo is also the Galopin, the 2 riders from a Movistar at the back. Amador is number 63. With him is Marc Soler. The rider that has worked his way up into 3rd position overall is the Dutchman Steven Kruijswijk from Jumbo-Visma. And we caught up with Steven Kruijswijk before today's stage got started. Here he is now.
I think we surprised a lot of people that we were still there, the 3 of us in the final, and that's the way we wanted it. And the guys did a great job putting towards the end for me. And opportunity I couldn't finish for the stage win, but I think we did a good stage for the GC.
Yeah, you're right up there, the GC, and the possibility to actually win the Tour de France.
We see Antonel Alaphilippe is really strong, and I don't see him crack that easily, and we have to keep fighting. It's a long way to go, and yeah, we have to take it day by day.
He hasn't done any of the pacemaking in that breakaway, Dan Martin. He's the only rider from UAE Emirates in that move. In some respects, that can be a slight advantage. All the other teams have got multiple riders in this breakaway, but Dan Martin is there on his own. So too is Simon Yates, actually. But they can look to other teams to do any of the chasing if there is a split in that group. and wait until it's crunch time before they really need to put themselves at the front.
Well, you know, Matt, the good thing about this course, about the profile, you saw it there on the bottom right of screen, is that the climbs are all fairly close to each other. So it's either up or it's down. There's not much valley road at all, just a little section towards the foot of the final climb of the Prat d'Albi. I think no more than a 8-kilometre section that could require any chasing if there's a split.
Niels Pollard out in front. Reaction coming pretty quickly from the man in the yellow helmet, that is Marc Soler. The group is really disorganised, even though they're out to 3:37.
So Pollard just trying to keep things going on behalf of Ilnur Zakarin, get the biggest gap possible. That's really all that Pollard can do from now on, is just try and open up the gap. He can't be of assistance on these Category 1 climbs to his teammates. So this is the best thing he can do, is keep the pace on. He's drawing reactions from behind. Nico Roach says, well, I better go across to that one just in case.
Also, Simon Geschke from CCC, making sure that he stays on the wheel. He's a powerhouse on the flat, Niels Pollard.
So even though nobody's in his wheel, it's encouraging the others to swap off behind him, not let somebody go, just keeps the momentum going in the group. And you see all the reactions coming now. More and more riders have gone across to that second group. And a little bit of panic starts to set in, then someone jumps.
And the primary reason Niels Pollard is doing this is because his teammate Ilnur Zakarin is in that breakaway. He's a great climber, Ilnur Zakarin. He's been third in the Volta a Spagna, stage winner this year in the Giro d'Italia. Simon Yates is chasing.
But Zakarin is not in this second group, so Pollard is also looking back to see where he is. Here he is, in that third group, towards the front of it, just behind Vincenzo Nibali. So Pollard has caused this split by reactions behind him, and his teammate he's trying to ride for at the moment is in the last group of the four. It's all starting to close back up again. And that is what awaits the riders up the valley. They are approaching the foot of the first Category 1 climb of the day. That was a couple of years ago into Foix. We will ride through today. Instead of the finish line being down in the town itself, it is high above on the Prat d'Albi Category 1 climb. Back then, just great to see that footage again of Warren Barguil and his entry into that final corner. Just carrying way more corner speed, a much faster line. Already standing up and on the pedals while the others were still trying to corner further to the inside. Perfect execution. All the time they knew what was going on. He was gone and the stage win was in. He would go on to win on the Colle d'Izoard and sew up the polka dot jersey of 2017 as well. And this year, after a very lean and inconspicuous 2018, Warren Barguil is back on the attack yesterday on the Tourmalet. And backing up a great effort by their whole team, in fact, of Arkea Samsic. Elie Gilbert was off the front earlier on. When he was caught, it was Barguil who went on the attack. No, it wasn't a stage-winning move, but it was a good attempt and will be a real confidence booster for the Frenchman. Really signalling his return this season with his win in the French Championship. Back up to the break, and it looks like we still have a split. There is still a large group in front.
And just again on Warren Barguil, I wonder how he feels about all the rumours of the arrival at his team of Nairo Quintana. There's 15 riders out in front, leaving 21 to do the chasing. Team's classification currently being led by Movistar, 11 minutes and 5 seconds ahead of Trek Segafredo. Vincenzo Nibali, number 41, the climber's about to start.
So any of those riders in that second group, the good climbers who have missed out on their split, they do have the chance early on the early slopes of this climb to get themselves back across, but give themselves a lot of work to do. With the likes up here of Peo Bilbao, Nicola Roche, Reichenbach. This is the second group, just with Dan Martin at the front, Ilnur Zakarin. We saw it was his teammate pushing the pace on for Ilnur Zakarin to try and open up the gap. has caused a split, and he's missed it.
11.4 kilometres worth of climbing. This is at the back of the group, number 63. That is Andre Amador. 136 is the bobbing, ducking and weaving Balka Mollema. 41, Vincenzo Nibali. 156, that is Pierre-Luc Perrichon from Cofidis. Peloton still being led by De Koenig Quickstep. And Mollema, third in the Volta a España in 2011. He is now being dropped. And he started the day 15th overall at just 9 minutes and 3 seconds down. He's got Ilnaz Zakarin with him. That's disappointing for Katusha Alpecin. That's the rider that Niels Pollitt was working for. Another rider from Fatigue from the Giro d'Italia, where he finished in 10th place.
Well, at the moment, Zakarin is about the same distance behind the front group that he was at the foot, but other riders are moving away and going across. This is Tim Wellens. Well, he's done what he could today. He did a good job yesterday, collecting maximum points on the Category 1 climb. He'll live to fight another day, and he'll be keeping his fingers crossed about who gets the major points on the 3 climbs today.
Base of the climb, the sprinter who is at the front for the Koenig Quickstep. The team is fully committed to the yellow jersey of Julian Alaphilippe. Yesterday he said he thought it would be hard. At the end, he said it was even harder. This is Simon Yates. Stage winner into Bagnier de Bigorre. He's followed by Sebastian Reichenbach. Next in line is Rudy Mollard, 2 riders from Groupama FDJ. The red, Nico Roach. This is Lutsenko in white.
The gap is something wrong with him. Elia Viviani, their sprinter, is still here and looking really comfortable. For a pure climber, a man who's 2nd overall in the Tour of Spain last year, is out the back. To be honest.
Has to be. Even on a bad day, he would outclimb Viviani.
So that means when the pressure goes on, you would expect most of the riders from the Quickstep to be dropped, bar Alaphilippe and Dries Stevenets.
It means there's going to be some lonely kilometres for Julian Alaphilippe defending the yellow jersey. Andre Amador, followed by Romain Bardet. I do like the character of Romain Bardet. After such a difficult day 24 hours ago, he bounces back immediately and shows himself once again at the front of the tour. Remnant of the breakaway group, Roman Kreuziger is leading. Guy Martin is the yellow helmet that you can see off in the distance. In addition to being a philosopher, he's also a playwright. He's written a stage show which is being performed at the moment in the Avignon Festival, and his mum is the producer of that show. It's Platon versus Platoche, and it's based on the writings of Plato, Aristotle and Socrates. But he has said, first and foremost, I'm a professional cyclist. I don't want to be typecast as this character of the cyclist philosopher. He's a lot more than just a bike rider, isn't he? With a master's in philosophy, and he's a playwright as well. He's got a bit going on here, Martin.
Well, he's got a bit going on trying to cross the group in front of him, and they in turn are chasing the front of the race, which is really starting to heat up. In the single file, Geschke still here at 1:14. Nairo Quintana, the best on GC in this group, starting the day 7 minutes and 19 seconds behind the lead of Alaphilippe. Another big acceleration here, and that is Caruso.
He's following
Will of Bernard.
Yeah, he's following Julien Bernard. The pink colours, Michael Woods. Number 72, that is Bilbao.
This is a chasing group, not the front group.
Correct. Yeah, this is the second group there, and they're at 26 seconds behind the front of the race. There's Guy Martin just in front of them.
That was the group with Dan Martin in front of him, and they are still behind the lead of the race. With Simon Yates, he's already on the march, looking to stage win number 2.
This is Ciccone. He's had a great tour. Second on the stage, La Planche de Valfie. A couple of days in the yellow jersey. He catches on to the group being led by Simon Yates. This is Dan Martin, followed by Bardet. Kreuziger in second and third position. In fact, that is not Romain Bardet. That is Tony Galopin that sits behind Dan Martin.
There he is, number 35, Tony Galopin. A very difficult start to this Tour de France. Came in under an injury cloud after a crash in the French Championship. Started the tour all bandaged up on his left-hand side. A few days later, he had another crash. After that, since then, things have been looking up. He's got himself into a couple of breakaways, and he looks to be getting better as this tour goes on, as Nairo Quintana is now having trouble following the wheel.
And he's not looking to be getting better. His teammate Marc Soler dropped back from him yesterday on the Colle de Tourmalet. Soler is not waiting today. He's in this group trying to go across to the front and join that contingent of riders with Simon Yates.
You saw Quintana just reach for the radio communication. Soler taking a look back to see where he is. Obviously the word from Nairo was just easy for a second, easy. No way, Soler is trying to power across that gap. You can't wait for Quintana in this situation now.
If he waits for Quintana, they both miss the move.
If he's blowing this early on a Cat 1 climb with the actions only just starting after what happened with him yesterday, Soler's got to push on and see if he can go for a stage win.
Woods is trying to push on. He has got Omar Fraulet with him from Astana and Guillaume Martin from Montegroup Goubert. Kreuziger out of the saddle for Dimension Data. They're about to make contact with the group. At the rear of that group is Simon Yates. Roach is there in red, so too is Leonard Kamner. Again, the young German. He's been very good this week. Didn't see much of him in the first week, but in the second week, he's been one of the standouts.
Andre Amador, the man who did most of the riding on the front for Movistar yesterday, and at the moment, he's the best of his team out of this breakaway.
This is Lutsenko, the Kazakhstan national champion.
He made a lot of attempts to get into the break today. It took him about 5 or 6 goes to eventually join this move that was able to get away.
Galopin, number 35. He has made contact. The body language of Dan Martin looks to be paying the price for the effort to close that gap.
Simon Yates, he made that acceleration. He split the group. He made everybody make a big effort to... Seems like he's just been sliding his way to the back, seeing who's here, catching his breath a little bit, but staying in contact with the back of the group. A little bit of recovery, and I expect him back at the front of the group again. And he's not done with attacking just yet.
The stunning Pyrenees, the final battle for this year's tour, that will be held in the Alps, including the stage from Albertville to Val Thorens. And today they have 16,000 people participating in L'Etape du Tour. You can also do L'Etape du Tour in many countries around the world, including in Australia, where Esteban Chavez and Amanda Spratt will be riding this year. But amongst those participating in L'Etape today in France, Frank Schleck, former stage winner at the Tour de France and a third-place finisher overall in 2011.
The high summer pastures here in the Pyrenees. Relaxed atmosphere if you're just out in the fields. The pressure coming on both up the front of the race in the breakaway and just starting to build back here in the peloton as well at the moment. De Koning quick step with Casper Asgreen setting the pace. Yves Lampart's still there as well, but the gap opening more and more to the front of the race. But they will also be hearing that Nairo Quintana is in trouble and being dropped out of the group in front. So that will help them to relax somewhat back in the peloton. Looming behind, Team Ineos, Jumbo Visma with Steven Kruiswijk. George Bennett there, just behind him as well. Soler, Lutsenko, Kreuziger, Guillaume Martin.
And all of a sudden, Nairo Quintana is within 2 minutes of the yellow jersey. He's now threatening the position of Geraint Thomas in second place overall.
Michael Woods moving himself up towards the front, so expect him to be going for the King of the Mountain points as well. He showed his hand over the last climb where he got the better of Vincenzo Nibali. This is Pierre-Luc Perichon. He was dropped out of the break, now drifting his way back to the peloton. Who, talking of drifting, now drifted out 5 minutes and 18 behind the lead.
So the virtual general classification, Nairo Quintana is in second position.
Into using too much energy and too many resources, especially at the moment since they're missing Enric Mas. Maybe hoping he can ride his way back on. I think it looks worse than that. But definitely giving Julien Alaphilippe a fairly easy ride. All the other teams prepared to sit back and just let De Koning quick step do the work. They look at that virtual general classification. Quintana now up to second at 1:57. Moved ahead of Thomas Kruiswijk and Bernal, is what we're talking about. Who does what and when?
Roman Bardet sitting just behind Natal Quintana. Two riders we often speak about in these sorts of positions in the higher mountains in terms of racing at the front, but not from a breakaway that's been given more than 5 minutes. Both of them had tough days yesterday, and they're really fighting back with both legs today. 65 Ks remaining, and it is still the 22-year-old Casper Asgreen with the jersey unzipped at the front. Luke Durbridge at the back of the race from Mitchelton Scott. The back of the main peloton, though, there's still a lot of riders further back behind Durbridge.
Absolutely. But, Durbridge, he's in a safe position for getting inside the time cut and live to fight another day. And at the moment, just riding his way into the rest day. This is his teammate, Matteo Trentin.
No doubt they will get together and ride the remainder of the stage in unison, along with a few others that are slowly getting dropped off the back of the group. Steve Cummings still here at the back. These are the best legs we've seen on Steve Cummings throughout the tour for Dimension data. Good news for Cummings is the green helmet in this breakaway is his teammate Roman Kreuziger.
And now, reminiscent of yesterday, Movistar on the front, but this time in the breakaway. And with a man who, at the moment, is making a march towards going virtual race leader in the Tour de France, Nairo Quintana.
Tactically yesterday, Movistar, they executed a plan that their legs couldn't live up to. Today, they've turned it around really quickly. This is strategically even better, and physically, they're performing at the next level.
I would say they carried out a plan that executed their team leader yesterday. But today he's
Bardet for points. Bardet for points. Simon Geschke wants a piece of the action. But Roman Bardet now, he wants a spot on the podium in Paris as the winner of the King of the Mountains classification.
Woods wanted to get through and was blocked. He's missed out on some points. Just squeaking through this time. He was intent on having them. Just couldn't get out from where he was, Michael Woods. Roman Bardet, his intention to clear. This is Richie Port. He's been off the back of the main group, but this looks like it rather might have been a nature break or a mechanical rather than anything else.
Richie doesn't look particularly stressed and is riding quite well back through that convoy of cars. Richie looks okay. It was a disappointing day yesterday. This is one that he appears to have under control. Riders from Sudal Lotto. He's reaching to the back pocket. He might have gone back to the team car to collect some food. Tischburu towards the back with him from Sudal Lotto. He's the rider in second last position. There's still a little over a kilometre before they reach the top of the climb. This is Vincenzo Nibali.
He's just going backwards towards the peloton, and there they are. So the man who was so aggressive early on and all day yesterday was paying the price for those efforts. Won't be the last we've seen of him in this Tour de France. I think he'll keep trying, but it just seems that he's running on fumes.
He really does need the rest day. Then to Nîmes after that, followed by Stage de Gap, where perhaps we'll see a bit more of Vincenzo Nibali up towards the front. Nibali now caught. Asgreen still setting the tempo at the front. Alejandro Valverde, the world champion, the rainbow jersey with the yellow helmet on. He's looking pretty good. The 39-year-old is in 9th position overall at 5 minutes and 27 seconds down. Bilbao is in the breakaway for the Astana team. He's one of the riders we caught up with before the start of the stage. We're not too far away from his home region in the Basque Country, just across the border. Here is Paulo Bilbao speaking this morning. Bilbao has already been proven to be correct. A few riders will have a difficult day today. Chiefly amongst them, the earlier victims, Enric Mas, the young Spaniard from the Deceuninck Quick-Step, who's already been distanced by the main peloton. This is Volker Mollema from Trent Segafredo, just in front of Michael Matthews. He said, I wanted to hurt the others.
Well, he did. He absolutely did, and that's what you've got to want to do. You've got to go into it like it is a fight. That was a great ride as well. Peloton and the break both can now enjoy around 16 kilometres of descending down off this Category 1 climb. The next one that comes up, it's a double up in a way. It goes from one straight onto the other. The lower slope is called Colle. The main Category 1 climb that's next is the Mur de Finestre, 9.3 kilometres and an average of 8%. It's shorter than the last one, but steeper. And Mur says it all. French for wall.
And look at the numbers in the last few kilometres. It goes from gentle at the bottom, from blue into red, a little bit of respite in the middle, and then at the top, gradients of 18%.
So that first part, called a Colle, after they get past that section, after 6 kilometres of climbing, it's the next 3.5, which is the actual Mur de Finestre. That 3 kilometre section is all, well, so the average is 12.5%. But with those steep sections, like I said, it'll be through the corners, 18, 19%.
Niels Colle now being caught by the main
I think it'll serve to break up the front group. The peloton, however, still a big question mark, isn't it? Who is going to do the chasing? Who's going to get nervous about Quintana having a fight in this race when they still have a long descent off the top of the next climb, all the way to the foot of the Finestre, because when they crest the Mur de Finestre after 147 kilometres of racing, they have 28 kilometres to the foot of the final.
Yeah, if it continues, it's the cycling standoff between the Koenig Quickstep and the rival of Julian Alaphilippe. Ineos, they continue to wait patiently. Yesterday we expected a little more, well I certainly did.
Vincenzo Nibali get away. Once the pace went on the Souleur, ease it back, roll over the top, relax on the descent. On for a free ride, and he'll come up to the top of the Tourmalet to collect another green jersey. Hearing through our race centre, Adam Yates is still 32nd.